good. Take your time, man.
That's probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. And it wasn't until 2 months prior to getting out of prison that I heard the Audible voice. He's like, hey, I'm, so-and-so, and this is my wife. And he hands me $100 bill and said, God told me to give you this.
Be vulnerable enough, willing enough to reach out and ask for it. It doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger. Your life will forever be different if you allow people to help you.
This call is from a federal prison.
Misunderstood, yeah. Judged by the cover. Misunderstood, yeah. From one to another.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm here from the inside out. We've been going through a bunch of different changes, lots of moving pieces. Tiffany is somewhere else. She's actually moving. I'm here with two people, and I know that you guys are going to love the show. Their stories are super riveting. One of them is Patrick McNally, and the other one is Bobby Corbett. We're going to talk about Bobby mostly today, and the reason why Patrick's going to be on today is he's going to co-host for me because I have to run out the door, but I just wanted to introduce them. Anyway, on to the show.
All right. Well, everyone, I'm Patrick McNally, and I'm going to be your host today on Inside Out. Our guest is Bobby Corbett, right?
Hello.
It's an honor to have you here, sir. I can't wait to hear your story. Let's change some lives. Like I said, let's make the magic happen.
Plant them seeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You never know when somebody's ready to harvest, right? Yeah. Let's see. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you? What brought you here today?
So we all had a mutual friend. Mm-hmm. He is a trainer. His name's Steven.
Yes.
And I guess I got brought up somehow during a conversation, during a training situation, I guess, with somebody from the house. I'm not even really sure how it happened. I just got reached out to, and here I sit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I found you guys. That's how ended up here today, sitting in front of everybody.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Bobby. This is going to be amazing, like I said. So, I'm not a believer of chance or coincidence. No. I do believe everything happens for a reason. So that conversation, the way it came up, I think helps tie a lot of things that have been in the works together, and so you get to help be part of that. A kickoff for me to reach out to the world, right? I've been gone and away for a little bit, doing my own transformation, but this really isn't about me today. It's all about you, your story, what's going on. So, the paths that brought us together, let's just lean into it wholeheartedly. Tell me about you, like your background. I want to know, like I told you, I didn't want to know about you on purpose, right? I wanted the magic to unroll, your story to become my story, our story all together. Share it real time right now.
Okay. Well, let's see. Where should I start? Grew up in a typical family home.
Okay.
Wasn't the greatest, wasn't the worst either, though. Family definitely had drug, alcohol issues, things like that. But, we ate. We usually had a place to go. And especially with grandma being around, she always had us there.
Yeah.
So.
She kind of the anchor?
Oh, yeah. Grandma was the anchor. She passed away while I was in prison. That was probably the hardest loss that I went through. Died at 88. And that was probably almost 10 years now.
Really?
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
But yeah, so, life growing up, some of my earliest memories are not the greatest. I remember getting mom thrown out of the car, us almost getting hit by a car from an ex-boyfriend or a boyfriend at the time. Coming home after school and nobody picked me up. And I was real little, and they're duct taped. So I don't want to say it was like normal life, but they just got robbed because, drug dealing inside the home and things like that.
Well, that must have been something, especially. How old were you then?
I couldn't even remember. I was in elementary school, but it was maybe third grade, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But there was influences in my life growing up. And the male figures, per se, at my early ages, and those times where you're being fed to be the man that you're going to be.
Most definitely.
And they could only give me what they had at the time, whether they knew it was destructive or not.
No, I can relate to that in my own walk. We want to have good people in our lives, right? People that we can model, right? You know,
Right.
so when you look at like what a man's supposed to be, especially when you're, you know, a boy, you're looking into the world. And I don't know about you, but you know, my walk was what, you know, TV, movies, you know, and the people around me showed me. And a lot of that wasn't even close to realistic, right? It wasn't loving or nurturing. It wasn't safe.
Right.
It wasn't anything like that. You know, it was like you were mentioning, things that you wouldn't wish upon anybody, right? You know, but it becomes so commonplace, right? It's our norm, right?
Right.
And so
Just
what
normal.
people freak out about, we're like, you know, yeah, you came home, they're duct taped, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
You know, then what? You know, you watch your mom get tossed out of a car. Then what? Right. So you learn how to, you know, at least for me, numb, right? Disassociate and survive. Right. So
Right.
tell me more though, please.
So, you know, I just remember growing up like that. And it was always my grandmother that was the one that, you know, really put the clothes and the food to make sure that we were taken care of.
Yeah.
She was the hierarchy of the family. But of course, we lived separately, and at points in time, we'd live with grandma and vice versa. You know, I got sent to Florida because I started messing up here in Colorado with an uncle, came back, and then shortly after that, started going in and out of juvenile system. And that was started out at 15, and then I ended up being stuck inside until I was pretty much 2021.
Really?
From 15. So been on paper for just various stupid behavior, started gangbanging. You know, there was shootings, there was robberies, there was theft, there was drug dealing, there anything and everything you could think of, you know, that could be going on was going on.
Okay.
And like you said just a second ago, movies, TV, music, and you know, and those are the people that you're listening to and you're living it though. And then you come to find out that they're just talking about it, but you're like, I'm actually doing it, you know? And, you know, at the time too, you know, you have your family sitting there and they're telling you that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get in trouble, but man, nobody could tell me anything because I had food, I had clothes, I had cars, I had girls. Who's going to tell me I'm doing something wrong? When my music and TV is telling me that's right.
Exactly. And, you know, the people that you spend your time with, you know, you're a product of who you spend your time with, right? And in that arena, you're winning, right? Like you said, you've got food, clothes, money, you know, the women. You've got what, not only your group, right? Gangbanging or whatever it might be, the streets, whatever it is, you know, it looks good, right? You're winning, right? You're on the plus. You got the W for that one. But, you know, in reality, I mean, anywhere else, it's so far out of whack, it doesn't even seem normal. But with what you were sharing, you know, especially coming up in a dysfunctional, you know, and I hate that term, but it's true. You know, it was what it took to survive, what looked normal, those things that we become numb to, disassociate from, and just accept as our norm, right?
Right.
Do impact us, you know, from a very young age. And then you can start to move and groove, and then being in the system, you know, you have to do what it takes to survive, right? Which, you know, we don't really even need to get into today unless you choose to, but it's not pretty. You know, it's certainly, it institutionalizes you, especially at an age when you're supposed to be formulating just who you really are in the world, right?
Right.
I mean, 15, are you kidding me? I don't know a 15-year-old, not even including my kids or myself, that really knew what was going on with the world, you know? And so 15 is a crazy age for any child, you know, any teenager to try and figure themselves out, right? Looking from the outside in. And so you end up in a box, right?
Yeah.
And then you're out. So then
out,
what?
In, out, in, out. It wasn't until 2006, which means I would have been 26.
Okay.
There was a stint in there where I was 2 years off of paper, 3 years off paper.
Okay.
Right before that, the 2006 period. 2006, though, I had got caught I was going to pick up a girl over there off of like 10th and Federal. And it was late, it was snowing outside. And I stopped and I forgot the parking light stayed on when you put it in park. A cop drove by, of course, and sees me, searches the car, and they end up finding, what was it? I think it was just a couple ounces of crack and a pistol. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
All right.
But so anyway, we go down and everything. I do that, pay for a lawyer, get everything there, end up on probation.
Okay.
A year later, 2007, I get caught in a sting operation from West Metro Drug Task Force. And that one was a lot bigger. It was for a quarter key
Yeah. So we're, as I'm listening to you, and I just know this from, my own walk and the people that I've walked with at times, man. And sometimes there's those shots where, it's a gentle nudge, right? You're a believer. We were talking about God before the show, right? The shirt that you have represents the nonprofit that you created, right?
Right.
So, believe or not, to me, whether it's God, creator, spirit, whatever it might be, it's semantics, right? So belief is huge, right? Something greater than ourselves. And there's an opportunity where that thing greater than ourselves, and we'll call it God, because that's what we're going to say today, gives you a shot, right? I mean,
Amen.
That simple thing when you're talking about, a little bit of crack, and a gun, right? With a history should have been, could have been the hammer, the nail in your coffin, but it wasn't, right?
Right.
And so, that's what I would consider like a nudge, right? That little nudge, right? God, that small, still voice, like, this is your time, Bobby, pull your head out of your...
Yeah, but I'm hard-headed.
Well, and so am I, and again, if we've done it for long enough and, it isn't like you don't see it as a blessing. You see it as like luck or you got off, still whatever, right? And so a year later, West Metro...
So yeah, a year later, 2007, I got caught in a sting operation. And that one ended up quarter key, a Coke, another pistol.
Oh God.
This time again, same lawyer, did all that. Ended up with a 10-year direct sentence to a halfway house.
Okay.
Up in Jeffco. Did all that, was doing fine, but I never stopped. I just manipulated. I had a friend that owned a company. I was still out. I'd leave the halfway house. He said I was working for him. I was just running the streets selling dope still from the halfway house.
Yeah.
He was cutting me checks. I was giving him drug money. Like I was just manipulating the system through and through. But I made it that whole time. And then 2014 is the big one.
Okay.
And that was...
And that's the crazy part when we're talking about what a big one looks like, right? I mean, a lot of people that listen to this show, I mean, some are familiar with the path that we've walked, some are not, right?
Right.
And if you see you walking down the street, you would never guess, right? You see me walking down the street, you'd never know, right? And so, I'm a big believer, you never judge a book by its cover. But, when we start talking about things, I mean, for some people, that first one would have been enough, right? The second one would have been it, right? But, like you said, hard-headed, that's true to a degree, but I'm sure there's more to the story,
There is, well, the thing is, though, is like I never gave myself the opportunity or chance to do anything different.
Exactly. That's what I
didn't know anything better. I didn't change the people I was around. I didn't change the way that I thought. I didn't think of the perspective that I see the world as, in my perspective.
Absolutely. Perspective.
So
everything.
Women, drugs, money. That was it. And I'm still getting it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, 2014 though, shortly before that, I had linked up. I'm not going to mention the group's name, but it was an MC club, a 1% group.
Okay.
Started being a hang around, started doing all that. And for me, because the level of what I was doing and with the drug game,
sure,
I was like, with that insignia on my back, I'm going to be untouchable. Yeah. So I started getting more involved and doing all that. Okay. So, I ended up there. Now we're at 2014. Mesa County, the Western Slope Drug Force, FBI, DEA, and ATF were all involved on this one. It was an indictment for the state of Colorado and a couple other states people were pulled out of.
Yeah, most definitely.
With the club that I was affiliated with or associating with.
Yep.
And of course, other people that are just involved in the thing. But largest drug bust of Colorado history in 2014.
Wow. Well, I was going to say, when you're pulling all those organizations in, you're not just piddling around. This is certainly, a major play, right? With a lot of powerful people that don't play games, right?
Right.
Yeah, on either side.
Right.
The good guys or the bad guys, if you want to call it that, right? Right.
So So I ended up going to prison on conspiracy because when they searched and seized and did everything, they didn't find any dope. They didn't have a controlled buy on me. They didn't have anything, but there was a pistol in my vehicle that was registered to the girl that was in my passenger seat, but my DNA was on the gun. So they ended up getting me for felony in possession or prior, with the possession of a firearm.
Yeah, the POPA.
And then, of course, the conspiracy to distribute a Schedule II substance. I was facing 96 years inside Mesa County Jail, which that didn't go over too well because facing 96 years is like, well, I'm going to die in prison anyway. Get in my way.
You know, exactly.
And then the way I looked at it is like, I'm going to go make a bigger name for myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to get those marks.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, what's the word? Like disobedience to the law. Like
Almost definitely. But you're going to run it till the wheels fall off. I mean, you know,
Right.
when you're looking at a stack that's greater than, you know, a person can actually live, you know, because
Right.
by now, what are you in your late 20s?
Oh no, I'm 45.
No, back to...
back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then that was 2014. I would have been 34.
34. So, you know, it doesn't take a genius or, you know, a calculator to realize you're not going to make it, right? And then inside of an environment like jail, especially prison, because that's what's coming next, right?
Yeah.
It shortens the lifespan of any human being. You know, it's inhumane for sure. You know, what's designed to create, you know, a consequence changes people, right? And what it takes to survive in there, like you said, when you're looking at a number that you can't even have hope, right? There's no mathematical way to get out, right?
Right.
You know, 34 and 96 is just not going to work, right?
No.
And then what you're stacking and carrying, yeah, I mean, especially with the mindset that took you in there, you know, and I can speak to this to my own way, is like, you know, how are you going to play it? You're going to play it to the bitter end, right? And the way I looked at it, I didn't have much worth anyhow. You know, that was one of the things that took me losing everyone and everything. Actually, it was everything and then everyone to get it right, right? And what I mean by that is to turn it over and look at the real things that were driving it all, right?
Right.
So when I'm listening to your story, there's parts that I'm sure we're going to get to, and I know it. I can feel it in my heart, right? I just know it's there. That, you know, you were in that state of mind with, you know, those negative core beliefs telling you this is just how it plays itself out. That's how the song ends. That's how the movie goes, right? That's what
Right.
the street showed you, right? I mean, you're just doing it. You're doing it at the level you're supposed to do it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never half-assed anything, really. You know, I mean, when I succeed, it's unbelievable. When I fail, that's pretty unbelievable too, right? And so when you put that much drive behind something, you know, and really without lack of worth, you know, and there is no end to get to except the end, right? Then you push. And like you
Right.
said, the fighting and everything else, the disobedience, why not? Make a name for yourself. If you're going to be in a box, you might as well, you know, be at the higher, you know, the high end of the pecking
Right.
order, correct?
Right.
Why not? You know, what
Right.
do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Nothing, right?
Not at all.
Exactly.
Nothing to lose, especially when you're put in a situation like that and you think you're going to be dying in prison.
Absolutely.
So I ended up with a 20-year sentence along with some of my co-defendants. Everybody was under 32 years because there was things that they ended up getting on there that were able to not be the Colorado COCA.
Oh, yeah.
Colorado Organized Crime Act. They weren't able to get us on that. So that got dropped. So I think the biggest sentence that was out of the indictment was 32 years
Okay.
on one gentleman. And most of us ended up with like 20, 25, 24.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm going through my prison stint, and the first 2.5 years was pretty rough. Like you said, trying to make the name, not taking anything from nobody. Even if somebody just looks wrong, you just hit them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until a rival club member that was like a mortal enemy of who I was associating with.
Sure.
Got on my side and was like, you know, excuse my language, but he was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Absolutely.
He's like, are you trying to do 20 years or are you trying to do longer than 20 years? Because the way you're going, you're going to get street charges in here.
Exactly.
And so he kind of took me under his wing and he worked with me. And then I started meeting other guys that he was with that were, you know, doing the same thing. So
What were they doing? When you say the
just-
same thing, help me.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They were still in some of the BS inside.
Sure.
But for the most part, you know, they were reading. They were trying to change that thinking, the perspective of the way that they thought they see the world,
Exactly.
the way it should be. And just being able to grow and make things better for themselves to be safe. So that way people know that they're safe when they come home. And, you know, it started out like that. And of course, it's funny how God works. Because I met the right people at the right time inside prison to do this.
Yeah.
Because these guys were still like a foot in and a foot out. But it was enough of the seeds to give me to where I was pretty much had both feet out at this point and I was done. But the thing that really, really got me was a phone call to my mom.
Okay.
You get 20-minute phone calls.
Yes, you do.
And we're just talking and just like, I couldn't tell you what we were talking about, but just rambling probably.
Sure.
My 20 minutes a week.
Yeah.
I'd call everybody
Trying to
once a
connect
week.
to somebody.
Right. see what's going on and everything else. Let them know what's going on with me, if anything.
Yeah.
And then, my mom just stopped in the middle of the conversation and she was like, when are you done? And I was like, done what? Still stupid.
Yeah.
And she was like, done with this. Cause if you're not done, I am.
No, it's fair.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when you were talking, I mean, the hair on my arm stood up, and that it takes a lot for me to get anything like that. I mean, but it's powerful. It's true.
Yeah.
For me, those calls, and I would not make them in the beginning, were my chance to feel like a human being, right? Not an animal, right? It gave me a little bit of hope when I swear to God, I didn't have any. I didn't, I was running my own version of what you're talking about. This is what I hate to say destined, but in my mind, I had some really broken thoughts and I thought I was doomed. I really thought God hated me. I was just a dirty piece of shit, lack of a fancy term, but that's what my core belief was, that everybody was going to leave or hurt me and life was pain. Right. It took me getting to my worst points, right? In a conversation similar to yours, because I'd pushed everyone and everything away, right? Either by choice or default. Some people couldn't hang, but like that conversation when you're talking about your mom, she's the person who wouldn't quit on me. She's the first one that should have,
right?
But she's the last one that did.
Gave him every reason in the world to quit on me.
Absolutely. And she was the most dysfunctional person when I was growing up. I mean, she's she's the only person who's ever kicked my ass. Now, I've fought and lost, but I mean, because I couldn't touch her. She's my mom. I came out of an environment like you were talking about. Violence was just the norm, right? And so we weren't much about sharing anything that looked like weakness. But, the person who, instilled some things inside of me that I wish she hadn't also geared me up to live the life that I ended up having to live, by choice and default. But, she's the one that showed me a lot about grace. Like I could understand exactly what it's like to be more than what somebody sees you as when looking at her, right?
Right.
What love looks like, what it takes to survive. I thought she hated me. I thought all these things and it wasn't true, right? So it was just my perspective. We've touched on that, and that's the key to everything in life, perception and perspective, for me at least, right? So to come back to your mom when you were sharing that call, it's so powerful because those are those moments, right? Like this is it. Right. And like you said, what did you say? So dumb, whatever it was, you weren't done. Right. But somehow, even though I'm sure other people had said it, at least in my walk, they had countless times prior to that point. Right. We get to a space and place where I not only heard it, but I received it. Right. I was in a place where it finally got in where it
resonated.
Absolutely. Right. So please take it from there, because that's that part. And I wasn't kidding. I mean, when the arm's hair stands up, I mean, it's a real deal. The energy in the room shifts. That's the piece that I look for in life. That's the connection. That's the part that is the truest true to me. Right. When, the stories are all what they are. Right. I mean, it's the theme or the impact, the outcome. And what I'm looking for is what comes after that. Right. And so this is the piece that excites me and why I said at the beginning, I didn't want to know, because if I would have known those things, maybe it would have robbed me of being present with you like that. Right. So I can relate full time, 100% what it's like to be not only the person on the one end of the phone call, but on the other as well. So take it from there though. So she tells you, are you?
Yeah. So she told me that what I said, if I'm not done, she is. And from that moment forward, I started asking for self-help books. And mind you, I wasn't a believer at this point.
I believe you.
So I'm reading everything and anything I can get my hands on. And, I had people telling me, oh, you need to start picking up a book to read for fun. And I'm like, for what? I don't have time for that. Like, I'm an idiot. Like, I need to learn. So I'm not the same person that came in this place.
Gift of desperation, right?
Right. So, I mean, everything, anatomy, psychology, self-help, she's what else? I mean, there's so much that I did. And then I started taking all the classes that they had to offer, anything and everything I can get a certificate in or learn from or anything. I started taking all that stuff. Good. And this thing opened up called an OCA, which is Offender Care Act. And you get to help gentlemen that are in a worse state than you inside prison. So they have a OCA 1, OCA 2, OCA 3. Mm-hmm. And the facility I was at, I could only get an OCA 2. I got the OCA 2, and they told me that they would move me to a new facility where I can get my OCA 3 and I can work inside the infirmary.
Okay.
And that entails some things a lot of men don't want to do with another man.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar, intimately familiar with that walk, but a lot of people aren't. So, I mean, you were basically a nurse, right?
Pretty much.
You're a provider. So whether it's bathing somebody, cleaning them up after they've soiled themselves, right? Thrown up. I mean, and we're catching people at an ugly time of life. I mean, it's hard enough to watch somebody struggle with health issues in the free world.
Right.
Put them inside of an institutional setting, right? Prison specifically, and you're watching men that, I mean, the conditions are inhumane, first and foremost. Yeah. But, to try and find anyone to care about you when you're at that point in your walk, most of the time their family isn't there, right? They can't be there, or they are not there. Sometimes they don't even exist. But, these are guys, at least in my experience, that are, probably not coming out, right? Regardless of their sentence, from the court system, right? But they're sentenced with their health, right? I mean, some people are, they're failing. They're, the ghosts of their past are catching up with them, right? Yep. That hard life, riddled with cancer, riddled with damage from bullets, whatever, drugs, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So you're in this place where you can do this OCA walk, right? So that's what it is. Basically, you're a healthcare provider in an ugly situation where, men are supposed to be the strongest versions of themselves. Weakness is not something that you want to show anyone, right?
Right.
Absolutely the last thing you want to show, right? So to be in a place where you voluntarily take on a role to help another human being, right? I mean, it speaks a lot about to me, the character of the man themselves, right? Outside of the story that puts you there, right? There are plenty of people that stay in their lane, stay self-focused, still keep, trying to be the biggest animal inside the box, right? And that's unfortunate, but that's a reality of that situation, right? Where the strong survive, right?
Right.
The weak get eaten, and that's just the way it is. So when you are weak, because my walk, I did have cancer inside the box, and I did choose to become an OCA, and why? Because again, it was something that got me outside of myself. I didn't understand perspective and perception, to label them correctly. I just knew that I needed to stop thinking about me, right? I knew I needed to do something for somebody else. And selfishly, I figured if I was going to go out, which I thought I was inside of that system, I would leave at least one more person better than I found them. Right. 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 Maybe they would have a shot even if I didn't, and that was the shit going on inside of my head. Right.
For sure.
So you do this OCA thing. You can do the OCA.
So yeah, I did the OCA thing, and that for me, that was like what you just said. It was the first part from the books that I was reading and things about giving back. Because my whole life, all I did was take.
Fair.
So the only way I've seen being able to give back the most that I could give back, other than through phone calls and start not sounding the same with family and stuff like that, was helping other men die in prison that didn't have anybody, or whether they were even in there just for medical stuff to go back to their main facility or whatever, but still just be there to give. And so I ended up meeting a gentleman there, or a couple of gentlemen there. One really got me on my fitness walk, which I was already doing, but he put it all together, and that made me make sense of it.
Okay.
So started getting into the calisthenics heavily.
Good.
Being able to do like the flag poles and all the levers from the bar.
Absolutely.
And then being at my age at that time, I was 38.
Okay.
When I really, really started being able to see the strength that was coming from the workouts and stuff. Maybe I was 37, but, and I also met another gentleman, and, I asked him today if I could use his name, and his name's Dave Coleman.
Okay. Tell me about Dave.
So Dave did 36 years on a life sentence, was supposed to never leave. And he ended up getting a clemency through Hickenlooper.
Really?
The man is out right now, married, already owns a home, has his case pretty much sealed, and is a director of a halfway house.
Really?
For the state of Colorado.
Okay.
So with him in my ear, inside, he had already done a whole bunch of things. I don't know if you've ever heard of 7 Habits.
I have. I've taken it.
So he was one of the founding inside prison that helped make it what it is today.
Okay.
And
it's a book written by Stephen Covey. It's in the free world, but used a lot intensively inside of a prison, environment.
Yep.
That helps you really build a solid foundation. I think if it's like anything that you gather with knowledge. If you use it, it's extremely powerful. If you just take it in and it didn't work because you didn't work it. Right? But that's what 7 Habits is. It's a book by Stephen Covey. Yeah. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend that you do. It's wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
Game changer, for sure.
Super game changer, especially, you know, like, because anybody can read a book, but can you apply what you read?
That's what I'm saying. Put it to use.
That's the key. And Dave was in my ear about things, and you know, when I'd start messing up on certain things inside, or that stinking thinking would come in, he'd be like, hold up, man, walk with me. And we would walk that infirmary daily, just talking and working on stuff, and the self-help and the self-reflection. So he helped me out quite a bit there. And of course the physical, you know, the fitness stuff and all that definitely changed the wiring and the thinking and the chemicals through the body that make you happier and feel good about yourself, self-worth.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but inside prison, once you end up establishing that you can work out, you know, 4 hours straight, nobody wants to really go in a room with you anymore.
No. That's that piece of finding the good in an ugly situation. I always say trying to find the beauty in the ugly times, right? And that is a true statement, you know. And so what it takes to survive, you know, you can look at it as, you know, you could lean into it like a lot of people have chosen to, and they just become a better, bigger animal, right?
Right.
Or, you know, you're in a place where it creates respect, right? And inside of that respect piece of it, you know, because there are things. I mean, I had to do things that I would never do to stay alive, you know, and I'm sure you did too. I wouldn't wish them upon anyone, as I always say. You know, they were ugly, but that's what it takes to survive in that environment, right? And so when you earn the respect from doing what works for you, you know, now it sounds like, you know, you're working on your mind. Now you got your body falling in line, right? You've got good people in your corner. And then, you know, I'm a big believer in balance, mind, body, and soul spiritually, right? So I'm waiting for that piece to fall into the puzzle, because I know it does.
It's coming.
Anybody that can read the front of your shirt and knows a little bit about what that might be, you know, knows that's coming too. But tell me more about Dave. So you do these walks, right? You're doing the working out. You get that piece. What's up?
So yeah, we ended up, you know, he just worked with me quite a bit. We spent a lot of time together, and of course now we're regularly. I actually have dinner with him tonight.
Good.
So, but we're in contact, and we plan on working together with the nonprofit stuff and things like that. And he helps me a lot with everything still.
Okay.
When I have issues, I can call him, and he's like, come on, man, just come over. We'll talk, you know, 'cause we all still have problems or go through things.
Well, that's called life. You know, and what we do with it is however, you know, I mean, that's the part of that I love about what you've shared so far is, you know, I mean, you go from not knowing, like, you know, when we were talking about young, you know, you don't know what those things are, then you gain some knowledge. That's really, I think, the tipping point, right? You know, so you go from not knowing to knowing, right?
Right.
And then what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, then your actions change. And that's how, you know, I this is a term that I picked up while I was in there. It's how you move, right? Because I mean, I heard a lot of people say a lot of things, and I wanted to believe them, but, you know, over time, most of them were full of it, right? You know, and that's unfortunate, but true. And so I watched how people move,
Right.
you know, and it reminded me of what it took when I was growing up to stay safe, right? To keep people from hurting me, or, you know, whatever it looked like, to survive, to succeed.
Right.
You know, is how we moved. I read the room. I read everyone. I played every scenario.
Observation.
You know, I mean, that was what kept me going. And so I just used that perspective and perception switch to flip around and stay good, right, with this whole part. But yeah, no, this is beautiful stuff. I mean, because quite honestly, it's the pieces of the puzzle at least work for me, you know. And then, you know, Dave is your wise counsel. That's what I call it, right? Because life happens to us all, right? And I mean, if I had all the answers, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this with you. Probably have my toes in the sand. I mean, I wouldn't want to not change lives. I just wouldn't have the same life experiences that allow me to do them the way I do, just like you, right?
It'd just be a little different.
Yeah, most definitely. So again, finding the beauty in the ugly, right? I would wish my walk upon nobody. You know, but it is what it took for me, just like it's what it took for you. So, you know, that piece with having wise counsel, or the product of the people we spend our time with, you know, we know that from the early part of your story or mine. You know, when we were running and gunning with people that weren't good for us, what did we get? We got what we got. We got exactly what we deserved, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that word very much, but it's true. You change who you run with, you change what you do, then you get exactly what you deserve. And that can be a beautiful thing, which is what we're going to next, right?
Right.
So Dave is what I like to call wise counsel. And if you don't have it, you should get it, right? Some people that in your life that no, I mean, I wouldn't take advice from, you know, about kids from people that don't have them. You know, marriage advice from someone that's never been married. You know what I mean? Financial advice from somebody that's dirt poor. Right. You know, I mean, unless it's about what not to do. Right. And so honestly, when I look, it's like, what do we do, you know, and we don't know? And I came from a school of thought, and from what you've shared bits and pieces, I was never going to tell anybody I didn't know. Right. I made shit up on the fly. I figured it out the hard way. You know, I'd go a million miles an hour into a brick wall. You know, I mean, I fell a lot, you know, I mean.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, you know, but I was never going to let you know I didn't know, because that to me was weak, right? And that isn't the exact opposite of what it truly is. You know, like you said, when you grab the books, we gain knowledge. What do we do with the knowledge? That's entirely up to us.
Right.
What Dave gave you and the other people in your walk, just like mine, they gave me was a gift. Now, was I going to open it and use it? Or was I just going to, take it, and, put it off to the side like a lot of the other things that had happened in my story? Because I had those subtle hints, those little nudges, those God shots that weren't that big. For me, I had to take a spiritual 2x4 to get my shit together, right? The nudge and this whisper didn't work for me, right? And it didn't sound like it worked for you either, right?
No.
Yeah, you got your 2x4 as well, but it's what it took. Not everybody needs a 2x4, but back to your thing with Dave. So that wise counsel, this moving and grooving. So you're still in the environment that you were. Tell me how we proceed from there. How do we get to the guy sitting in front of me today? What's going on to get from there to here?
So I still had 4 years to do in prison after Dave, and I ended up going to another facility.
Okay.
And this is where I met my best friend now.
Okay.
His name is Darius. I won't put out his last name because I didn't talk to him.
No, it's okay.
But,
we don't need that.
But when I met Darius, all these other people led up for me to meet him because he had done so much of the work and so analytical that he was really, really to put everything I was learning into perspective and then truly go work on it and use it. So I used to go out in the yard with the things that I was learning from these books and practice on these men inside prison, and I was watching it work.
Okay.
I was able to get men to come in the room and sit down just like this and talk.
Good.
And I would be able to get them open up. And they would tell me who they really were. I got to see the real man, and they'd be crying in the room. But as soon as they crossed that threshold to go back out on the thing, chin up, chest out,
absolutely,
all different again. I was like, well, your secret's safe with me.
Absolutely.
And I learned that one from my friend Darius. And it was just, I started realizing that maybe I'm a born leader, that I didn't need to be. He says that I'd kick people in the dick and they'd come back every day because I just treated them like crap.
And some people, they don't understand. That's what they want. That's what they're conditioned to have, right?
Right. And one of the best things he ever told me that still sticks with me today is, man, be kind and start with your damn self.
Exactly.
And started doing that. I'm still hard on myself. My mentor will tell you I'm one of the hardest people he's ever worked with. But once I get it, I do get it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so anyway, we go through this. I'm roommates with him this whole 4 years.
Okay.
And
this is Darius, right?
Darius.
Okay.
Yep. And so tremendous help, a God blessing in my life. I mean, through and through. I got to learn so much. And he helped me so much. And the best part was he wasn't scared of me. So he was able to put his knee on my neck and he stayed there to keep working with me.
Absolutely.
To where other people would be like, man, I'm done, bro. Exactly. Except for like Dave and a couple of these other guys. So anyway, at the facility, the staff started they started noticing, and I'm still in contact with some of the staff from there today through emails and stuff.
Good. That's powerful.
Kept a relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm in the process of trying to go back in again. I've already done it a couple times. Just ran into some speed bumps and everything with, of course, headquarters and all that, when licensing and all the logistics of what they need for me to be able to get back in there. But we are getting in, and I found loopholes, so I'm going back in.
Persistence pays off, and the right thing can't be stopped.
No, nothing's going to stop God's work. And so anyway, it's about time for me to get out of prison.
Okay.
After this 4 years at the facility that I was at last.
Okay.
And every day I would wait in the morning for breakfast. I would wait for everybody to leave, and that's when I'd do I called it meditation at the time. Now I know it's prayer.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'd put my hands behind my back, clasp my wrist and put my head down, and I would meditate on the way over. But I'd always wait for everybody to leave because it was the quietest time that I wasn't within 3 feet of another man inside prison.
Absolutely.
And it was a 1/4-mile walk from our unit to the chow hall. So I'd walk as slow as I could for my meditation.
Oh, for sure.
And it wasn't until 2 months prior to getting out of prison that I heard the audible voice. And I had my head down, and where the facility I was at, it was Trinidad. There's Fisherman's Point that overlooks Trinidad, the plateau that's up there. And it was a cloudy morning, and I had my head down still, but something in me was like, look up.
Okay.
And I didn't. I stayed in my meditation, and but nothing was said yet.
Okay.
And it got louder in me. The feeling was like, look up. And I looked up, and like, you know how a light beam from coming through the clouds, like this, it was perfectly, like,
a ray of light.
It looked like a laser, like an orange laser.
Okay.
And it was hitting just the point of Fisherman's Point that overlooks. And I heard it clear as day. Clear as day. It said, believe. And I turned around because I thought I said something out loud, and I thought one of my peers was behind me, mocking me.
Yeah.
Ready to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody was there. And I said, what? Like to myself.
Yeah.
And again, it was louder. And believe. Yeah. And from that moment on,
Yeah.
I knew.
You're good. Come on.
So, yeah, that's where I started believing in God.
Good.
And from there, it was easy. The last 2 months was so simple and freeing. And the burden of all those years was like, it's done. And then everything from there just, man, it started happening. Like he was just like proving one thing after another in my life that he was there and going to have me, and his promises are real. And I got to the halfway house, and I was told that it was going to be 6 to 9 months before I could get out.
Okay.
My case manager calls me in 4 months into my stay there, and she's like, you're leaving.
Really?
So I beat it to 2 months from the earliest I was supposed to be able to get out.
For sure.
But before she told me I was leaving, there's the story. So
here we go.
Yeah. They were short on staff at the halfway house I was at.
Okay.
And she had to work control. So signing in, signing out, whatever needed to be done. And I'm signing out. And she knows that I'm driving. This is probably the one thing I was doing in the halfway house I wasn't supposed to be doing, was driving.
Okay.
But I was driving and had my car parked away from the halfway house and all that. And she knew it. I was honest with her. I told her, like, I'm driving, you know, before. And she told me as we were walking out, don't get caught. But I kind of said a joke and we laughed. And then when I'd leave, I'd pray on my way to the car. And I got to my car. Or no, wait, I hadn't gotten to my car yet. Sorry. This was the second time that I heard it. And I'd been in the halfway house just about that 4 month mark.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, pretty much right there.
All right.
And I was praying to God, and I was, telling him the same thing. Like, man, when is enough enough? Like, this is holding me back. I'm from even having a relationship with you, because I can't get them to give me the time to go to church when I want to go to church, to go to like the Bibles or to fellowship or any of this. It's so hard from here. I'm not getting anything from being here anymore. What is the purpose of me being here? What is it? What is it? Show me or give me a glimpse of what it is that I need to learn here to get out of here.
Okay.
And I get in my car. I go to Starbucks. A friend gave me $100 gift card. And there's like $48 left on it.
Okay.
And wait, I gotta back up. I forgot.
Go for it, man. This is your story.
I forgot the best part of that.
Oh, I don't want to miss the best part.
During that prayer, this is the second time I heard the audible voice.
Okay.
And during that prayer, it said, "You'll be gone by Wednesday," and I knew it was him.
Okay.
And again, the first instinct though is like, did I say something out loud? And I look around and I'm like,
yeah,
I'll be gone by Wednesday.
Okay.
So anyway, I go to the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And then from Starbucks, I just give them the card. There's like $48 left on that card after I bought my Starbucks. And I said, you know what? The next people that come through, just here.
Yeah, pay it forward, right?
Pay it forward on this card because I've already used more than my share of it.
Okay.
And they were like, thank you, God bless you. And I was like, God bless you. And I drove off. I get to the job site, and the Bible talks about thresholds and crossing thresholds. There's multiple places in the Bible where it talks about it. So I undo the lockbox at the job site that we're on at this fix and flip, and I unlocked the door. I opened up, as soon as my foot hits over the threshold, my phone rings, and I look, and it's the halfway house, and I'm like, crap, I bet I didn't sign out, because my case manager and I were joking around, and I forgot, and she forgot.
Yeah, you figure you're in trouble right off the bat.
Right. Well, or to just come back to sign out. So I'm like, crap, man, I don't want to drive all the way back to the halfway house. But she gets on, I answer, I'm like, what's up, Annette? And she says, you want the good news or the bad news first? I said, well, give me the bad news.
Of course.
And she was like, you're going to do another 6 months. I said, I know that's a lie.
Yeah.
And she was like, how do you know it's a lie? I said, because I know. I said, I'll tell you after you tell me my good news.
Yeah.
I already knew.
Yeah.
She's like, you leave this week.
There you go.
And I told her the whole story, and then she was crying on the phone.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I get out of the halfway house, but during this time I'm hooked up with my mentor, and he's the one that really brought the faith together for me.
Yeah.
And then I ended up at the church that I go to, and the mentors that I have there, and spiritual family.
Most definitely. So when, I'm hearing you share, these are the things that I think when, not just me, but the people, because I've walked around it a lot in my life. When people, talk about, what a miracle, right? Miracles happen every day, right? What defines a miracle, right? I mean, are we looking literally for a burning bush? Knock that off, right? But I mean, whether it's, to stop when somebody shoots through an intersection, just to listen to that voice, right? That audible piece you're talking about it and believe it. Not that you said it, not that you're crazy, not that, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Just to believe, right? First of all, I think that's the key piece, is just to believe, right?
Right.
And so as I'm listening to you share, I mean, the belief system is building from a guy that didn't in anything, especially God, to a place that now you're in you're challenging your case manager when they want to play games with you, right? You're like, no, I know. How do you know? Because you believe, right? Wholeheartedly what you've heard. You don't question it. You don't doubt it. That's how it works, at least for me. Faith isn't a situational thing. It isn't, faith is easy when it's easy, right? And what I mean by that is life in general, right? Faith is, truly tested when it gets extreme, right? And same with like this concept of a miracle. So as I'm listening to you, there's so many of them so far, right? How it played itself out, the idea of bouncing into the spaces and places that you did, being able to find when you were ready to receive, believe when you could, other people believing in you when you wanted to turn, putting their knee on your neck, so to speak, right?
Right.
That Darius, right? And the people that, when you wanted to quit, flip or turn, do what we've done our whole lives, which didn't get us much more than what we already got, right?
Right.
The ones that could believe in us when we didn't believe in ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Down to the case manager, right? Because she could have totally dropped the hammer on you, right?
No, she could have.
I mean, that driving thing is no joke, right? Mm-hmm. And in some environments, you find people that are unfortunately broken, and they find some type of either, I don't know what it is. I can't really say pleasure. I hope they don't find pleasure in it, but, in other people's pain. Right. And it exists, unfortunately, not just in those environments, but in the world. And it's terrible. I mean, I want to see everybody win. I'm not one of those guys that's got to be me first kind of a mindset, but I want everyone to win. That's my idea of what happiness and success looks like.
Well, go back to the Covey. That's a win-win situation instead of
absolutely,
and all that.
And those are those pieces that, instill a solid foundation, and much more than just being able to regurgitate it or parrot it back, right? But to live it, right? Because that's really where the magic truly happens that I mentioned at the beginning of this whole thing, the magic, right? Those miracles. You can interchange those words in my mind. It's really semantics, right? I mean, we're watching magic happen in your story right now. I mean, what you're sharing with me, a lot of people would be like, no way. Well, way. Right there. So, I challenge anyone that can't find a miracle or the magic in a day. You're just not looking in the right place, So it comes with that, when you said meditating earlier, I used to just say prayer and meditation. I worried so much about what people thought about the words that I chose that, look, man, whatever you call it, whatever you do, do it. Right? I don't know who you're talking to, but if it works for you, then please keep doing it. Right.
Right.
All I know is that when I talked to myself, it wasn't working too well. The things that I was saying weren't working for me anymore because they really weren't true. They were hurting me, not helping me. And, to have light and love shared in my world that created a space, right? And a place for, anything to be, things that were beyond my wildest imagination. I shouldn't be sitting here. If what I asked for and what I worked for, my consequences were delivered, I'd be dead and gone.
Right.
But I am a walking, talking miracle. I just walked through a cancer battle. I just walked through that in an environment that it was easier probably to tap than to push. And what I mean by that is tap out, be done, quit. I wrestled with those thoughts on a regular basis during the middle of that, right? Or push forward, push into the unknown to really walk out faith, with a guy that's still wrestling like you with a belief system, right? Why me? Because I'm just a dirty piece of shit, right? I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but who better?
Exactly. And that was the
But
piece.
who better?
Why not? Why wouldn't I? When I think it was you said Darius or Dave mentioned, that you be kind and start with
it was
yourself.
Darius.
Right?
Right.
That is one of the biggest things I ever struggled with, right? I could do these things for other people. I couldn't do them for myself. I didn't know how to have, any type of grace or forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to have love for me, right? I just didn't know how. I mean, the concept, sure, I'd tell you, sure, Bob, I got it, right? I mean, I'm good. Bullshit. I didn't know. And it reflected in my life. But back to where you're at with this whole idea of these miracles, man. I mean, to me, that's something that I just didn't want to let slip, because when I sit and share time with you, you are a miracle to me, right? The idea that you overcame what took most people out. When we play the odds, and I'm not much for looking at those, because those can be pretty damn depressing, to be quite honest. If I look at the likelihood of being here in front of you with what I've gone through, physical abuse, mental, all of it, that I shouldn't. Right. And then how I tried to deal with that with, addiction and, and behaviors and who I spent time with and what I did, I shouldn't, and neither should you. Right. So I'm not much for stats and odds when it comes to that. I like to be the one that proves that anything's possible, that nothing is impossible.
Right.
And is it me? I'll do the legwork, but honest to God, literally, it is not me. Right. No. I mean, I am on borrowed time for sure. It is a gift that I never squander. Some days I don't always get it right. But I mean, when I start and finish my day with prayer, meditation, or both, I try and leave people better than I found them. Right. I remain humble. I'm kind, even to me, which is still a lot of work for me to do. Right.
Right.
The consequences that come with it, what I deserve, reflected. I have a life more beautiful than I ever imagined. Right. It's simple. It's different. But I mean, I have things that people can't buy. I have love, like home, not a structure, but a state of mind, peace, serenity. I'm present in my own life. Right. I didn't know how to do that before, man. I was always running to and from stuff, and I'm sure you can probably relate to that,
There's certain things where I'm still there a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a work in progress. But yeah. Let's go back to your thing. So you're talking to the case manager. She tries to pull your chain with this 6 months more. And then you're like, nah. Then, she gives you the date. What was it, Wednesday? Did it turn out to be Wednesday?
So it was the day before.
Oh, it's even better.
Yeah, it was even better.
That's a God shot for sure then.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get out and I'm at my brother's house at this point, out in Commerce City. And everything's going regular, just church, work, staying in fellowship, learning as much as I can, just trying to get back on my feet. And one night comes another, and this one all leads up. So I was having issues with tithing.
Okay.
And I was just like, man, this guy's just trying to take my money, And I've never just freely just handed out money.
Well, think about where you came from.
Right.
You had to hustle hard to get what you got. Right. Yeah.
So it was very difficult for me to understand this tithing thing, but I was listening to the elders at my church and my mentors that had taken me underneath their wing. And they're like, okay, I was down to like $58 in my bank account. You got to keep $5 in there to keep it open. So I grabbed $50 out of it. And on the way to church, I was praying the whole way there.
Okay.
Like, all right, I'm expecting your promise. I'm going to give this $50. I need you to show. I was like demanding God to show me his that it's real, that what he says is real.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I'm new in the faith and at this point, like really getting into it and trying to understand it and believe and have even faith to the promises and the word of God and the truth.
Yeah, for sure.
So I get to church, we go to service, and tithing comes. I throw my $50 in there, mad too. Like, mad about it. Like, here's my last $50.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah. So,
show me. All right.
Do it with a smile on my face. My mentor don't say nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
now
good.
Zach will know.
Good. Right.
Now he'll know I was mad that day.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Anyway, I had left. We went to my mentor's home. We fellowshipped, and then we had a 6:30 service that night too.
Okay.
So we ended up going back, and lo and behold, our pastor's talking about tithing. at the night service. And he was like, you know, if you feel led by God to give for whatever reason or to whoever, you do it.
Yeah.
And just know that he's going to give back, and whatever it is that you gave out, you get back, as long as you did it in out of the faith of God's word, and your faith to believe in that the promise is real. And so we go through all that, and of course the service is maybe an hour and a half long that night. Sure. And an older gentleman came up to me after the service and introduces himself, and he's like, you know, hey, I'm, you know, so-and-so, and this is my wife. And he hands me $100 bill and said, God told me to give you this. Hours later. So I'm like, okay, this is I don't believe in coincidences like we talked about earlier.
Most definitely.
And I'm like, all right, God, you showed me. And then on my way out, you know, I'm like, so if I give this 100.
Exactly. Now you're,
So
yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Let's play this thing to the end, see how it goes.
Right. So, you know, of course I'm doing that, but I got invited to a dinner, and it was going to be a testimony of an elder lady that was actually one of the Jesus movements in the 60s.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that was the plan. They invited me over to their home and to go do that and all that. So I'm waiting, and that was on a Sunday, and then the following Friday, I get a phone call at 3:30 in the morning from my youngest daughter.
Okay.
And you know, a horrific event happened in the middle of the night, meeting up with an ex-boyfriend. I don't want to go into detail.
Yeah.
But you can already know what happened.
I'm a dad too, so yep.
And she was scared to call me and tell me, but she told me she needed to come over. And she didn't tell me at this point. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that late at night, and she's like, can I come over? And she's crying. I'm like, no, great. I already knew what happened. Just intuition.
Yep.
And she shows up. She doesn't say anything. And other than, Dad, well, you just told me like you did when...
You're good, Bob. You're good,
like you did when
you're good.
I was a little girl. And I did. And she got on my lap.
Yeah.
And like, you know, crossed my lap, and I held her. Yeah. Like she was a little girl again. Mm-hmm. And that at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And she finally told me that what had happened. Mm-hmm. And she told me she was scared to tell me because she thought that that I was going to be the old me. She didn't really know me yet from all the work that I had done on the inside with myself and the man that I became. And I just told her that, you know, it wasn't her fault.
Absolutely.
And
it never is.
Ever. And that you can't control other people's choices, that was a choice he made. Mm-hmm. And that it had nothing to do with her. And she was like, but I put myself there. I said, that's not your fault. Yep. That man still made a choice. So anyway, I was still holding her at this point, and something just came over me or told me, apologize for that man's actions. And
good, take your time, man.
That's probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I told her, though, I was like, you know, I'm sorry for what this man did to you, because you're never going to get one from him. And man, she just started crying again and just hugged me and said, thank you. And then I think it was a couple days later, that dinner that I was invited to, I asked my daughter, of course I asked everybody that asked me to go to it, if it was okay if I brought my daughter. And they all said yes.
Of course.
And there was 2 people there that I had told prior, one of my mentors and his wife, they knew what had happened.
Okay.
And so we get there, and we go through the testimony of the older lady that was in the 60s. And then my mentor's wife, of course, was like, so what is your faith in the Lord?
This is your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably shouldn't have said her name, but but that's my daughter.
Okay.
So anyway, they asked her, what is your faith look like?
Mhm.
And she told him, and she believes, but isn't active, doesn't really know. So she didn't know who he was. She just knew of him.
Mhm.
And she was like, well, have you ever given yourself to the Lord? And my daughter started crying. She was like, I've tried everything else. Nothing else has worked.
Mhm.
Why not? So she did the sinner's prayer and gave herself to the Lord that same day too. And mind you, I'm at the house of the guy that gave me this $100 bill. This is where it's going to get good.
So far, it's been really good. So I can't wait for it to get better.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So my daughter gives herself to the Lord. Everybody puts their hands on her, pray over her, and do all that. We all sit back down and we start discussing miracles. And I told the gentleman that gave me the $100 bill, the story leading up to him giving me that $100 bill, me going to the bank, mad, grabbing my last $50 out of the bank. I tithe it. And then later that night, he gives me a $100 bill. He said, you want to hear one better? He said that bill has been in my wallet for over 10 years and God told me to put it there and give it to the person I tell you to give it to.
There it is.
My daughter got saved off of a $50 bill from the worst event that could happen to her to that. The very next morning after that happened, my daughter called me. Mind you, this was a few days after the incident.
Sure.
She's like, Dad, I'm so happy. Like going from the worst moment of her life to telling me that she's the happiest little girl that she could ever be again. Heartwarming, all from being obedient of a tithe that started out at $50.
And, it goes beyond that. Yeah,
it does, because here it is.
Yep.
If that thing had been in his wallet for 10 years, that was set up how long ago for God to tell him to do that, for it to be given to me, to get my daughter there to get saved right after a horrific incident. Nobody could ever tell me God ain't real ever again.
Well, and that's the piece. No, it's beautiful. And, again, now I got my arms and my legs doing the, the hair standing up. But that's how it works. That's the piece that I was touching on. And that's why I don't ever want to know your story until we do it real time, right? I mean, because I could have formulated my thoughts. I'd be my old me would want to put that kid in the ground, the one that hurt her. All the things that would run through any dad's mind for sure, right? And I was a product of those things. Same things for a long time and had to keep it quiet. So I know how that can impact a person, and nobody was there to lead me through it. So you're ugly, and then the beauty in the ugly that allowed you to be in the space and place where you really put faith to the test. And, as I'm listening to your story, there's times where I've done it, begrudgingly, I think is a polite way of saying it, with a bad attitude, but I did it, right? Because I'm like, I don't even know if I could say I believed per se. I just knew that what I was doing wasn't working. And I'd seen it for other people. And if it could work for them, then why not me? And so you take that shot, that last $50 out of your 58, and you throw it in there, right? And something that was created 10 years earlier was a man having to carry a bill. And I'm sure in those 10 years, that guy needed $100 for something, and so he never wavered. Doesn't mean he didn't think about it, but he didn't do it.
Right.
So, so what we think versus what we do, back to that piece of how we move in this world, he moved with faith. He moved with faith for 10 years, believing in something that, how is he to know? I'm sure there were other people. I mean, you can just walk out the door now and find somebody that probably could use $100.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the store. There are people wrecked in this world. It's an unfortunate, ugly place where people maybe know of him, but don't believe, right? Don't know how to believe. Don't believe that they're worthy of it, right? Because of their own past actions, like that ugly night that impacted her or mine or yours or whatever it is, right? That takes us away instead of closer to. What I love about what you just shared with me is the beauty of how it can work in a quick way, right? I mean, something ugly, there's beauty in it, right? I mean, the faith of how it can go full circle in that time.
God says it, every bad will be made into a good.
Absolutely. Now, can I believe that all the time? I wrestled with that piece, to be quite honest, because faith is hard when it's hard, right? When I wrestle, if that was my kid, I'd be like, absolutely not. The old me would fire right back up, right?
Well, those first thoughts were,
Oh, most definitely. And what I think,
put this dude through a wood chipper.
absolutely. And so, because that's what I know changed my path forever, right? But it made me, and when I found the beauty in all the ugly in my walk, is it made me more able to relate to people that had suffered ungodforeseen pain, right? The ugly of what a person does, not God. God didn't do anything to me, but that helped me formulate that God hated me, those years of rape and all the abuse, right? To me. And so I believed it wholeheartedly, and I never shared it with the world. For her to be in a place where you modeled what faith looked like after, your short walk of coming from an ugly space, right? To be there when she needed you most, to hold her like the baby that she needed to be at the time, right? Because we're all just children, right?
Right.
And so to be her dad, which, is a freaking miracle in its own right, because you didn't blow up in the box and nobody took you out, so you're there exactly when you're supposed to be for her. Because as much as we want to protect our children and other people we love, there are things that are going to happen in this world. They do, and it has nothing to do with God, right? In fact, it's the exact opposite, at least in my opinion. So you were able to be there and model it out for her in her time of need of what it looked like to be a strong man with a level head, to walk in faith, and then to watch the rest of those pieces and parts fall into place so quickly. And like you said, take someone that is suffering so much pain and turn it into beauty, because she turned her life over. Instead of just knowing something, she fully believes it, and it relieved her, I'm sure, of that weight that could have forever changed her path. It changed mine until I let mine go, right? And it took decades to let that go. But it impacted every relationship I ever had.
Right.
And especially the intimate ones. My view of myself, my worth, all of those things. So for her to be free of that at her age gives her a beautiful, bright future, right? And so again, to find the beauty in the ugly, and all of that is just amazing. So, there's so much more to you, and I want to hear more. So we go through this night, the man that had that for 10 years, right? How it impacted not just you, but more specifically her, right? So now, of course, anybody that doesn't believe in miracles probably ought to get their head checked, right? Or replay this a couple of times, because every single thing that I see and hear inside of this has something tied to a miracle. What couldn't be or shouldn't be is happening real time right now. Right. So keep going, please.
So yeah, going back a little bit, just at this point though, I would started working on my nonprofit, Broken Halos.
That's what this is, Broken Halos. Okay.
Yep. And it was founded in 2022.
What made you want to do that? If you don't mind.
God.
Good. And you're listening.
Yeah, and I'm listening. A month after getting out of prison, I was back inside prison underneath of I went in with another gentleman that owns Lion Pride Fitness, which is he's a retired police officer, chief.
Yeah.
But now works for another police he just got back on.
So I'm shaking my head, because here's the deal, if we weren't catching it, because there's a lot of moving parts with the story, is that at this point in time, you're fresh out of prison. You're in a halfway house.
Yep.
Anybody that doesn't know what that looks like, you don't get to make choices. You're basically still in prison, but you're in the free world, right? You are structured, you are accountable, you're UA'd, BA'd, every movement, everything
Your
still
counts, everything.
Absolutely.
Monitored.
And if you make a mistake, you pay a price different than most people. When most people make a mistake, then I'm sorry, and there might be a minimal deal. You make a mistake, prison. Exactly, directly back to prison.
Yeah, then they weren't going to play with me because of my.
Exactly.
I was a high profile case.
No, you got your shot, and to go back and look at it, that was God really in action before you believed, right? Because that shit was never supposed to go down, ever. That doesn't happen, right? Not with priors, not with the, not, right? But it did. Right. And that's the piece where, again, miracle shot. But you're not supposed to have that flexibility and freedom, especially to re-enter a facility 30 days after you got out of it.
Yeah.
So keep going from there, because I just want people to understand that part. If you don't know, which I hope you don't, but if you don't know, that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. And so he put me on the list to go in with him underneath Lion Pride Fitness, which is a CrossFit in the setup. So, we went in, we did the Murphy workout.
Okay.
And then we fellowship with the guys and then have a barbecue and stuff after the workout and everything. And then after that, they kind of took us around. The guys that were a part of the program wanted to show us their cells and all that. Of course, I'm freaking out. I'm having an anxiety attack because I'm like, man, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to go sit in that room again for years and years and years.
No, absolutely
You
not.
know, we're walking past control, and nobody told me they wanted to show the group how they're living, and we're passing control, and I'm like, hey, that's the way out, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like freaking out. But so I started teaming up with him. I went up with him there. We started going to the Denver halfway house at the county jail.
Oh, good.
Off of Smith Road,
Okay.
Regularly, and do a workout with the guys and talk with them and things like that. And mind you, at this point, I had Broken Halo. Broken Halos was in the works, and that was where it started. It was with Lions Pride Fitness,
Okay.
and with my mentor on truck rides to work and stuff like that. And we were talking, and it just came about. Like Broken Halos just fell on my lap about going back in and doing a prison ministry.
Okay.
And, you know, and that's where it all comes together for me at this point is like God had me go through everything I went through. And whether I made my choices, I mean, he gave me that road to either pick this, pick that, you know, red pill, blue pill, whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely.
And I chose can't even say the wrong path now, because the lives that I'm being able to touch and relate to, what experiences I went through, I had to go through to get to where I'm at. But he gave me that second chance, and being able to beat a 96-year case, I consider a beat, even though I pretty much did a decade in prison over it. You know, I didn't.
I'm going to go
there.
with you. I'm going to take the W on that one, man.
So, you know, but I got to meet the right people when I was inside. I needed that pause in my life to be able to become who I came or am today, to be able to touch and even maybe just even plant the seed to somebody
Absolutely.
that's going to relate to me, instead of me just being a nobody coming in and be like, oh, I care about you. You know, I don't know what you're going through, but
Well, that goes back to that piece I was talking about, where, you know, taking advice from somebody. I mean, you know, if you've never had kids,
Right.
you can't talk to me about what insanity is, especially the teenage daughter.
Right.
You don't know what crazy is until you have a teenage daughter. I'm just telling you, you know, from my own experience.
well, she's in her 20s now. And she's
Yeah,
still
no, I'm
crazy.
just saying there's just a lot of things, and like marriage advice or, you know, fitness, whatever it is, right? So I respect the people that have been, you know, they can come from a place of experience, and they can show me
Exactly.
what true success looks like, right? To do the work, right? Because I
Exactly.
respect the work. You know, the things that have come to me in this life that I truly cherish, value the most, you know, I mean, I consider myself like very blessed to have. I'm worthy now, right? I did the work to become worthy, right?
Right.
I don't think I deserve much of anything except for the consequences that I luckily didn't have to pay. But I am worthy, right? And you are. And so when you can go back in with, you know, Broken Halos or Lions Pride or any of that, the combination of it, that is a time in life, at least for me, that it magnified the worst, right? You know, I mean, it was a culmination of everything that had happened to that point, right? And you're sitting in a place that, you know, is supposed to help you, right? You know, and I'm not trying to downplay that, you know, I mean, it does serve a purpose, a pause does, but if you don't have the mindset, you
It's not
know,
gonna
or a
help.
belief system, or even somebody like Darius or whomever, right, to lean on you and tell you, lift you up, love you, see you for who you can be, you know, all you see is what you've done, which is in my late mistake. And when you're judged by your mistakes,
Right.
right? Nobody sat down and said, overall, you did a pretty good job in the game of life, Patrick. They're like, you did this, 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 and this, right? And you're shackled up. You're in a place where it is, you're not coming back out. Potentially, it's extremely nerve wracking. Like, I mean, I believe in consequences and accountability, but for Pete's sake, man, I mean, it's like, this is the worst of the worst. And in my mind, I don't know about yours, it just magnified how I saw myself, right? And so, you know, to reach into a place where men, you know, in this case with your, you know, organization, I mean, men or women or however it's done, you know, we can believe in someone until they can believe in themselves, right? You know, you get a choice, you know, whether it's red pill, blue pill, whatever, you know, the right path, the wrong path, we always still get that gift of free will, right?
Right.
You know, and so to take some ownership and accountability, you know, stop being a victim, stop falling into the broken mindsets of like, you know, that negative core belief system that this is all I'm ever going to be. This is what I'm supposed to be. This is as good as it's going to get. You know, I'm, lack of a fancy term, I'm fucked. Right. And, you know, and that is a horrible space to be because
Yeah,
you're
well-
not in a place where it's not a hope factory.
Yeah. And the thing is you are effed if you think that.
Yeah, most
'Cause
definitely.
If you think it, that's what you are.
Well, and that's
I
that
mean,
piece of like, you know, the belief system. And again, whether it's, you know, the power of the tongue or the power of the universe, again, semantics, right? I'm going to go with the power of the tongue. What I speak, I get, right? What I hold in my heart comes true, not in my time, but in God's time, right? And so that part where you're able to reach into people's lives, at the worst times of their lives.
And that's all we're trying to do is with Broken Halos, I'm trying to go in and I'm trying to recreate exactly what I did without that first 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, no.
You don't need that.
No, you don't.
And I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, like for a correctional experience, I guess.
Yeah.
And Colorado's a light one.
Yeah.
Like if you go to like Georgia, Florida, Texas, those ones are a lot rougher. I'm not saying ours aren't bad, because I mean, you're still with people that are unstable, and really prison, all it is junior high school all over again with a whole bunch of dangerous guys.
Yeah, you've got some really big people that don't play well with others, and
right.
So, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of mental health issue in there. I mean, that's the piece that I saw, whether, again, back to that balance of mind, body, and spirit, right? So, if your mind's broken, that's troublesome, especially when you're a 300-pound person who's always resolved issues with your hands. That doesn't work well, right? And then if your belief system is broken, and, you don't know how to love or be loved, right? Those are some dangerous people, right? But in that space and place, I mean, whether it's the worst or the not, it just isn't unless you search for it. Those resources aren't immediately available. I mean, like you, I found my feet through other people, right? I mean, I ended up in Bible studies where it was like, I'm still wrestling with my belief system, but I knew it was better than just being out in the, I couldn't be in that mindset. I didn't move in those lanes. I didn't think those ways. I wasn't associated with anything. Wasn't an STG. I wasn't none of those things, right? My life caught up with me late in life. So, I certainly wasn't some young kid. I was an older guy, independent, not relying on anything, sick, riddled with cancer, trying to just get through this thing, maybe, right? Still wrestling with my belief system, but coming back through, going into a Bible study, being around people that were trying to be different. I mean, true killers, right? I mean, and it wasn't because they were bad people. Some of the best guys I met were in a program called Surge while I was sitting in DRDC, right? And those men, unfortunately, were paying prices that I would, still blow my mind. They're not going to see the light of, free world unless they get clemency because of a choice they made at 18 years old, because of the situation they came out of. I'm not making excuses, but like you, there were people in my path that when I want to quit in this free world walk, I want to give up or it's too much. I have to think back to the men that will never get what I got, right? Which is a chance, right? To be free. To do things differently, to use that knowledge, to walk in faith, to make a difference, and how I get stronger and stronger. And the reason I sat in this chair, because I have to be honest, is I didn't want to do it, right? I didn't want to tell the world, the truth. I mean, not that I would lie about it, but it was easier to kind of hold it at times. But like you, I can't, it seems unfair and quite selfish to hold back, the amazing amount of blessings. Right. And how I got it. And like you, to go back and touch a life or 2 or 10, 1,000, if I can do it, that's part of jumping into a venue like this, right? Is, you take that. I walk through the fear because I know for me, this is borrowed time. God gave it to me to use wisely. And, I can tell people what, I can share my experience, my strength, my hope, what it looked like to do it right, what it looked like to do it wrong, right? Like you said, those first couple of years, you don't need that. But if you want it, this is still going to be the answer. Mine, when you're ready to give it and use it, right? To, how you want to move differently.
But you don't need to do it that hard way.
No, and who's to say who's going to get that chance? Because that's the one thing that I've realized with this game of life, because I've watched some really good people go on to the next part, right? And if I could trade places with them, I would have. My 13-year-old, she's like a niece to me. She passed. They had to pull the plug on her 13th birthday. It's like,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's like with yours. I mean, I wouldn't wish what happened to other people, on anyone. But it's one of those things when I look at, like I said, it wasn't a God thing. God didn't do it. It happens. But what do I do with those things that happened? Right? Find the beauty in the ugly. Right? The power and the pain of it all. And so,
give your testimony.
And that's the piece that seems to be the gift that I got. I can't change, I wish I could have at one point in time, the things that created the man that sits in front of you, right? But what that perspective and perception, that humble heart, that idea of giving it back, that idea of, just a simple act of gratitude. I mean, I woke up today. I'm in a free world. I've got a roof over my head, clothes on my back. Yep. I can see, hear, walk, talk. You know, I mean, there's so much. And when people tell me they don't have anything to be grateful for, I'm like, let's slow this down. You know, and that's sometimes what creates the conversations like we're having today. I don't need to get to those depths, but I mean, like,
you don't want to be grateful. Go sit in a 10 by 10 box.
Absolutely.
Year after year after year.
That's what I'm saying, where you brush your teeth, wash your face in the same place
and you have
take
to live
a poop.
and usually you're living with a stranger.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
and riddled with mental health in a place that when you boot, you know, you better boot up when you walk out of there, right?
Man.
And then, you know, the people around you that are supposed to help you, not always, right? Not necessarily. That's the piece of another show, I'm sure, of that we could have a conversation about, you know, that it isn't really designed to help. We have
it's
to
not.
be.
It's called corrections, but the only corrections come from if you want to do
Thank
it.
you. That's
one
where
of
I
my
was going with
sayings.
it.
One of my sayings there was, you know, and I got told this, but you know, I stole it from him.
That's okay.
Because it seems like I end up telling more people it now than he was using it. And I told him I was going to do this too.
Fair enough then.
So anyway, a desk inside of your cell. A desk is associated with school. And every time I'd walk by, and I used to tell guys, why are you sitting on that desk? You should get off that desk and use it what it's used for. You can turn this into your school. Instead of going downstairs to play dominoes or poker or yelling at your girlfriend on the phone.
Absolutely.
Like, man, it was just repetitive. And I was trying to plant seeds even when I was in there once I got it. But I didn't have the patience to work with some of these guys that were asking for it because it was just like, no, like, you need to figure it out like right now, dude. I ain't got time for you. I'm still working on me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and we are only as good as, I mean, this is the piece. I used to be really good at taking care of everyone and everything else but me, right? And ultimately, this is an inside out kind of job. You know, I had a guy tell me a long time ago, and it's kind of like yours, you know, I mean, God, me, and then everyone else. And, you know, I was like, or find the good, the gift, and the God in everything. Those are two things that I hold on to it, you know, that I got from an older gentleman called, by the name of Gary Doon, actually. And, you know, I thought he was insane. Actually, I'm like, the good, the gift, or the God and everything. Did you not just listen to what I told you, Gary? This is a mess, you know? I mean, and so, but it's true. It's there. If you look for it, it helps, you know, and it is that change, right?
Right.
But, you know, God, me, and then everyone else was the key piece because I was doing it backwards. It was everyone else. And then, you know,
Well, we're
maybe
taught that.
Absolutely. And it was such a broken thing when I was relying on the world to tell me I was okay. It's
Right.
not the world's job to do so.
No.
Ultimately, it's an inside out thing. And it comes a lot from my, you know, my relationship with my, you know, my creator. And so, but to sit in that place, you know, does change those things. And like you said, you know, I mean, not everybody's ready. Everybody wants a quick fix. I think that's a society thing right now. You know, either a pill, a potion, or some kind of magic lotion to get this done now, right?
Right.
We need it now. You know, yesterday actually, and if I can't get it from Amazon today, then there's a problem.
Exactly.
And so it isn't that way. The best things, the most sustainable things for me, the ones that truly create a foundation that I am standing on now, you know, sitting at the moment, but standing on that really make me the man that I am, you know, come from the work, right? I did the work. I finally did the work, right? And a lot of it was I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It was already out there.
Just had to look for it.
I had to use it.
That's
you know,
it.
not try and outsmart it, not do it faster, better, strong. I mean, just some different way. Just do it. It works. Just do it. Right.
Yep.
And so the pieces that you're sharing and what you're bringing back into place seem that way. So tell me more about Broken Halos. So how long is that alive now?
So Broken Halos was founded, like I said, in 2022.
Okay.
That's when I started it. But then up until this year, it was pretty much put on the back burner after I had gotten into it for the first 6 months, 8 months.
Okay.
And then it was, I ended up with a job up in Alaska.
Oh, okay.
So I was gone for the last 2.5 years, traveling the Inuit villages, doing all the construction stuff up there with the company. Great experiences, which is another God's blessing because when I was sitting in prison, all I could think about, and I'd watch those Alaska shows, those Alaska shows, and I'd see the Northern Lights, and I'd see the fish, and I'd see the bears, I'd see the salmon, and I used to just think about, man, how cool would that be to be able to see that? That'd be cool to see that. Well, then not only did I get to go see it, and I mean, I got to live in it and with the natives of Alaska out in their villages while we fixed things for them out. And of course, we were getting paid very well. Yeah, for sure. But we got to go hunt with them. We got to go, and you know, I didn't use a gun. But going fishing with them, a polar bear
Yeah.
was charging us on the Bering Sea out by Russia. I got a picture of it. I'll show you afterwards.
Oh, most definitely.
The native put out 2 shots, you know, and it was a young male bear and just kept charging. He said, all right, I'm putting it down.
Yeah.
And he did. And we sat there and holded it up while he was cutting it and hide it. They used every piece of that bear.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to lie. Polar bear tastes good.
There you go. Well, I mean,
So,
you know, you got to do what you got to do in that piece of it. But, it, you know, it sounds to me like you got a chance to have some experiences that
Right.
would have never been, you know, you got to be, I'm sure you impacted some lives there, you know.
oh,
and
yeah, they called me Pastor Bob.
There
in
you
the
go.
Villages.
There you go. You know, and like I said, semantics before, sometimes people get wrapped up in the choice of words. And, you know, and I think that creates arguments that don't need to be, you know. And so when it comes to faith, have it, you know, and
Right.
belief in your creator, have it,
Yeah.
own it. Don't be ashamed of it, right? Don't worry about what anyone else thinks about it, right? It's
At
your
all.
personal relationship. So, you know, whether it's God, spirit, creator, you know, whatever it is, especially when you're an Inuit, you know, they're not going with that. They're going with probably creator, right? Or spirit. But, you know, the whole point is that to me,
but yeah.
it's the same, you know, to me at least. And so that's amazing. So you're up there for 2.5 years. Then what?
So then I come back, and at this point, I had moved down to Florida last January.
Okay. One extreme to the other?
Yeah,
Alaska,
I
Florida?
used to go to work to freeze and go home to thaw out. And that only happened twice, though, because God called me back to Colorado.
Okay.
Doge messed up all that because it's federal grant money that did that. So it messed up this year. I wasn't called back.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I don't have work. I got some money saved up.
Okay.
And I guess it's time to focus on Broken Halos, like what I want to do, where my heart's at.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know the Bible says don't follow your heart, but I know God gave me this, so
Yeah.
here I am. I moved back to Colorado, and have been just trying to get Broken Halos going again.
Good.
Like I said, I work with Dave Coleman a little bit. He guides me through a lot of things. He's with Second Chance,
Yep.
or works with Second Chance.
I'm familiar with them.
Lions Pride Fitness. We're trying to get him going again because now he's on the police force in another location, not too far away from Denver, but he's actually a police officer again. But we've been talking. And from there, I mean, I start Charis Bible College on the 27th of this month. So
really?
I'll be going down to starting Bible College.
Good.
And then, I'm just trying to do everything I can. I'm with the Prison Fellowship organization. I'm going to be donating 1 to 2 days out of my week to go teach self-help, or cognitive thinking. I'm getting prepared to go teach classes inside prison for them. Just give until I can get Broken Halos where it is. We got to go. I got a whole curriculum up and ready to go.
Okay.
Just got to jump through the loopholes that DOC headquarters has put out that I got to get through. But I'm still finding ways to get in there to be able to help.
Yeah, most definitely.
Even if it's not my vision or my mission with Broken Halos, I'm going to go do somebody else's until I can get Broken Halos where it needs to be.
Yeah,
and be
no,
able to get in
it's
there.
like, light. It'll go through the crack.
Yeah, right.
Right? It
It'll
gets
get
where
there.
it's supposed to be. It can't be stopped. Right? And
Right.
so if you use that as a venue to get in, everything will come. Your story, as you've shared with me, I mean, it's just a snippet of it all, just a summary. But, there's so much that, showing that nothing's impossible, right?
No.
Anything is possible. And especially when we lean and walk in faith, right? And we don't give up easily. We get up when we get knocked down. We find the good, the gift of the God. Thanks, Gary, for that one in everything, right? Remind where you find the beauty in the ugly. It's there, right? And so, your place, the arena that you choose to be, especially when dealing with people that are either incarcerated or coming out, sometimes we just need somebody to care about us so we can care about ourselves, right?
And that's about it. When I go in, I just let them know too, especially after we get talking and everything, is like they're not forgotten. There is organizations out here and people that work for these organizations that want to help, that want to be there for them and be able to help them get back on their feet. And first, I mean, it does start with the mind.
Absolutely.
And, that's what we're doing. Broken Halos is my mission statement is combating recidivism through mentorship and leadership skills.
Okay.
So
Powerful.
building them up to be leaders.
Yeah,
and
most
then we
definitely.
have mentors that are going to be ready to go to do what my mentors did with me with these gentlemen, to where they'll have these successful businessmen on their side to be able to help them, get those experiences that they may have never had before or going to see. My mentor is taking me to Lake Powell on these houseboats that he owns. I get to see him run, the Airbnbs, the way he runs his construction company. We get to go to Arizona to fix an Airbnb. He's taken me all over the place to do these experiences on top of the Alaska thing. And that was a different company, of course. But it's just like, it seems like since I've been off paper, I've been all over the US.
Yeah.
And it's because of the people that are in my life that are showing me these things, that this is possible, that this can be done, and that, the enemy attacked me the first time I went down to Lake Powell, and I'm looking at these multi-million-dollar houseboats all around me, and came over me, and it was like, this is how broke you are. You'll never have anything like this.
Yeah, the lie.
But on my way back, I was like, that's a lie. And I got that notion from God. It was like, no, I'm showing you what you can have.
Exactly.
Just stay the course, stay the path, and trust the process.
Well, and that's the piece that, and this is just something beautiful to come up, is like the idea of a mentor. I can only speak to what it's like to be a man because that's all I've ever been, right? And so I know that I didn't have those strong men in my life, and so I searched in the world, like we alluded to earlier, TV, movies, music, and other people, right? So I had a very disconnected and unrealistic view of what it looked like, right? I'm supposed to fly through a room of 1,000 bullets and, make it, maybe get grazed, never cry, never fail, never this, never that, right? Completely unrealistic, and I didn't know how to win in life. And, I did well. I found some ways in life to do things well. I have some incredible children. I did some good things, but I couldn't hold it, right? Because I didn't believe I was worthy of it. But my point is the mentor piece, because you've touched on it multiple times. And, man or woman, find that wise counsel, I like to call it, right? And it's not from a place of not being able to know, but why wouldn't you? If somebody had the directions, could I get around the world? Probably. But if I had a guide, would I get there safely, quickly, and enjoy the ride? Absolutely. Right. Why would I want to struggle if I don't have to, right? And the idea of being vulnerable, not because you can't, because you're weak or there's something wrong,
that's
you're stupid or broken, all this negative self-talk, those lies, right? So you get to a place in space where it's like, why wouldn't you? It's not even a cheat code. It's just the reality of the situation. I would want my kids to do it.
Right.
I get frustrated when they don't. I know they're strong-willed and independent and they want to figure it out, and maybe they don't think the old man knows, but honestly, people like the ones that you're referring to, and especially the idea of being able to see that it is possible, right? They're showing you things not to rub it in your face. That's old negative self-talk, right?
Right.
They're showing that it is possible. They're opening the door, and that belief system, if it can happen on a small scale, why can't it on a large, right?
Well,
who's to decide how big a miracle is or isn't?
Right.
And so the idea of a mentor, whether you've been institutionalized or not, is irrelevant at this point in time. If you want to know how to do something better, people will hire a personal trainer.
Right.
You know that. I do that as well.
That's how we met.
Yeah. I'm a trainer as well, so how did I figure it out? I did the work, right? But do I need everybody to do it the hard way? Get hurt, frustrated, down, play? No. So I would ask them to come to me in that arena, right? People do those things. And in that context, it's okay. It's acceptable to hire a trainer, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't you do that with your life, your business, your relationship, whatever
Everything
it might?
else.
Yeah.
Every
why
aspect.
wouldn't?
Because that's the thing too, is like, you just said that being weak with vulnerability and transparency and stuff, and I know it might be a little bit harder for guys that are inside because you have to put on that persona to be the tough guy. But even then, tough guys aren't tough. I grew up around tough guys.
Yeah.
They don't act tough until they have to.
Yeah.
So that's a persona too.
Absolutely.
But the thing is like, to me, and what I've learned from the books that I read, and even just with my faith, being vulnerable, being transparent, that makes things so much easier because it makes you safe. If you don't have, I don't have to hide anything from you, then you know me. You don't know the mask that I'm putting over or of what you think that I am. I can be myself around you, and if that's safe, then here I sit inside your family's home.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and it's not because I'm dangerous, it's because we have a mutual friend that said, hey, this guy's cool. He's safe. He's this, he's that. I want to introduce you to him if he wasn't.
Well, and my thing is, even if you were, here's my point. You know, when I look at it, I go with that, you know, everything happens for a reason. I love what you're talking about. That old idea of, you know, being vulnerable is weak. It's not. The best version of me, and I always struggled with like all these feelings I had and emotions and being, you know, an intuitive person, an empathic person, being able to read those, you know, the room. I thought that there was something wrong with me. I was trying to be more like every other guy, right? And I wasn't supposed to be. I wasn't built or designed to do that. That's not what God created me to be, right?
Right.
You know, the man that was in touch with those things, that is intelligent, you know, has a heart, you know, does want to make a difference, isn't going to hold on to the cheat code, right? I mean, I'm going to share it with the world because that's what, in all that ugly, the beauty of it is that I can, you know, and whether it's somebody that's been in the box or somebody that, you know, has never, it doesn't matter. The same thing, regardless of the experience, you know, people still struggle with self-worth, you know, you know, hurts, traumas, negative core beliefs, those things, PTSD, all of that stuff still exists, right? You know, to the severity of it is all really based on a personal deal. You know, I mean, my bad is not your bad is not my bad. But if it was bad enough to change how you see yourself, skew your lens, your perspective, your perception of you, not just yourself, but the world around you, then why can't we utilize those same skill sets, right? To reveal that, to take off the mask, to allow you to be vulnerable. And I'm not saying you got to run out the door right now and tell everybody what's going on, right? That doesn't work because, you know, I believe in, you know, an appropriate person, place, and time for things, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, I can't run around and go, hey, man, I went to prison. Hey, man, I was, you know, I had struggled with addiction. Hey, man, I was raped as a kid. Hey, man, this and that. You know, I mean, all of that stuff at the wrong time with the wrong person not only is overwhelming.
Well, they've already just made their assumption.
Yeah, I mean, it's shut down, right?
Yeah,
you know, you got to know your, you know, appropriate place, time, and person, right? But when you're talking about that idea of truly being, you know, authentic and taking those risks, the connection that comes out of it, the power that's created, the momentum. I mean, I'll get back behind all of what you're talking about, you know, whether it's, you know, your friend and his organization now that he's moved on to something else, you know, getting down with, you know, broken halos, the stuff that I'm doing with this team. I mean, it is powerful. It's different. And, you know, it was time for me to come out and just like start to shine, you know, because I don't know how not to, right? I mean, in all of the things, especially being sick, you know, and wrestling with a different, you know, life and death, it was like, man, you know, am I ready to tap? You know, I mean, I'm like, I fought so hard to get to this place, to be done. Now I'm riddled with cancer. Enough, right? But in all of that, man, every single somehow experience when I want to tap, somebody will come into my world because God put them there. That was something I've experienced.
Kind of give you that nudge.
Well, yeah. And I can either keep my mouth closed because of like shame, you know, or what they might think or how they might judge me, or I can lean into it, right? And that's really the power of it. Like, I mean, I open a door, that light comes through the crack, right? And it's not because I'm some kind of a magical human being or superstar in that arena. It's just because I can come in such a way that it's true, it's genuine, it's real, it's my experience. And when I open that up, it creates a space and place where they allow somebody else to do the exact same thing, right? And that's where the healing happens. I'm not going to fix you. You're not going to fix me. It doesn't work that way, because if it did, shoot, sign me up. Let's get fixed right now. It comes from being able to turn the light on, you know, and shine it brightly and see those things that are uncomfortable or challenging. The things that have, like, you know, we touched on from my past. It could have been your daughter's, yours, or anybody else's. Their secret, because I believe we're as sick as our secrets, right? Where you sit and you flip on the light, you know, and the secret, the monster under the bed, whatever it might be, with the appropriate person, time, and place, loses its power and you gain yours, right? That shift. We don't create new energy, we just shift it. I spent so much time hiding things, so much time with a mask, so much time taking care of everybody else, so much time trying not to be seen for who I really was, because I thought there was something so terribly wrong with me, that when I leaned into a space and let the light shine brightly on me, right? You know, there's nothing really wrong with me. You know, I'm just a human being, right? You know, I'm just being human, and I'm doing a good job, you know, and I mean, and I make a difference. And those are cool things, because at the end of the day, when I lay my head down and I do my prayer and meditation, my gratitude list, you know, somehow, some way, there's just something that's a little bit better, because, you know, I was blessed enough to be here again, right? And that keeps me humble, but hungry at the exact same time, because what can I do tomorrow? And how many more tomorrows am I going to be blessed with? And how many more organizations can I link arms with? And how many more people can we put in front of a camera, share their story, spend an hour with them, you know, and get out into the world, right? You and it was about trust. And it did help that we knew somebody, we had a common link, but it wasn't a chance and it wasn't coincidence.
No.
It was supposed to be.
Right.
Just like the $100 bill in the wallet for 10 years, right? Your story and my story had to happen the way they did so we could have the powerful testimonies that we do, right?
Right.
They can touch a life. Not that I know it all, but I can certainly tell you that anything's
the
possible.
Bible tells us that's what it's for.
Absolutely. And it's not about how much I can recite. It's about how I move in this world. And how I move is a lot more graceful,
Right.
a lot more humble, and a lot more impactful than it's ever been, right? And today's just another example of getting to have that, gift, right? Because that's the way I look at it. What I thought was a curse my whole life, all the shit that happened to me, that I wished away and tried to hide away, that drove so much shame and fear, those secrets that made me so sick, not just mentally, but literally physically, right? The more I dealt with that, the easier it got to deal with the rest of what was really getting to me. There was true power. And not like I'm trying to be powerful. What I'm saying is the power to be present, the
Right.
power to have impact, the power to be a change.
Well, the power to allow him to be able to work through you to do the work.
Absolutely. Exactly. I couldn't have said it
Because if
better
you haven't
myself.
forgiven yourself, you're not going to help anybody else.
No, it's an inside out job.
Right.
And I used to think that was selfish. But my son reminded me not long ago when I was about to tap out at Thanksgiving, I was a whole 184 pounds and I was ready to quit, because I had just come out of prison myself. And, I was sitting in a space and place in a halfway house that wasn't as encouraging as the one that you had. I didn't have anybody letting me do things that I shouldn't be doing. They were all over me.
Just my case manager because she liked me.
God bless her. Literally.
She liked me.
No, my point is that, it was a simple story that I'd shared with him, years and years back when we were leaving his mom in Florida of all places and coming home. And he didn't want to do it. But I said, and I didn't know what to do. I was choking back my own tears. I'm like, I have destroyed all of this. I hadn't, but I was trying to take ownership of things that weren't mine, right? But it was about the oxygen mask. I was grasping for anything. Now it's become much more mainstream that people talk about the oxygen mask and securing it before helping others.
Right.
But I didn't get that. And at the time, it was literally in front of me. I'm trying to fight back tears. I got a kid that's 12, 13 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's, I've failed this life, right? Especially as a dad, I thought, and a husband, but it wasn't true. And I said, they tell you to secure your oxygen mask before you help others, right? And so he comes back to me years later and he's like, boy, you're flying around the plane. Everybody else is going to be great. You're going to die. You ready to die? Or are you going to put on your mask? And so it's time to do those simple things, right? And so with that piece in part, and not to go off topic by any means, but it really just ties back into what, I think brought us together is like, taking care of yourself first and foremost. And that's what I want everybody to do. It's not a selfish thing. Self-worth is the key. I think it fuels a lot of addiction issues. I think it fuels a lot of underlying issues in all relationships, right? What we think, what the voice in our head says, all of those things impact us, right? And so
Right.
once we realize what, who and what we are.
That and also looking for acceptance in the wrong place. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
you've been in prison. So, it's one of the things I never could understand. I understand it now. But, when you got 50, 60-year-old men listening to 20, 30-year-old men,
Yeah.
you're like, it's all over acceptance.
I know.
And it's just like, really?
Yep. And
Really?
and you saw it in an extreme environment, but I know what happens in the world, and so those same things, yes, we need to be good with ourselves first and foremost before we can ever truly
Right.
connect or love, right? Impact long-term, be present.
Well, like you said, you have to learn to love yourself, respect yourself, be kind to yourself. So that way you're not looking for acceptance on outwardly things
Exactly.
or material or anything.
Oh yeah,
To
no.
be,
And that's
you
what the
know,
world tells us too. That's one of those
Yeah.
things. I walk through those steps, buying happiness, having all those things, somebody
and
else to complete
never
you.
happy.
Absolutely not. It's an inside job, inside out. But I think for today, is there anything that I didn't touch that you want me to with your story or Broken Halos or anything else?
No, I think we've covered it.
Yeah,
Just
How can we find Broken Halos?
That's a good question.
so you can register to Broken Halos at brokenhalos.net. Right now, the website's actually in the process of being fixed.
Okay.
Or made. But I do have a registry set up to where people can register, and then I send out like a newsletter.
So now if
We
somebody's
can do that.
interested, and they should be, I feel like I'm going to do it. So I would hope others will as well. So I want to go register at brokenhalos.net, right?
Yep.
Okay. But the site isn't up functioning fully yet, but I can register.
Yeah, the registering page is up. I just don't have the website going yet.
Okay.
It's in the process and being worked on. getting material for it too. Like I said, I've just came back and started really working on everything
So
again.
when people see it, it's real. It's the right one. So
Yep.
brokenhalos.net.
Yep.
There'll be an opportunity to register. What else?
From there, if you give me the information and stuff like that, I just send out, the letter, let you guys know what Broken Halos is doing, where we're going, how we're moving.
Is there a way for people to help get behind it?
So right now, I know where I'm at, just trying to get back in and everything and doing all that. Right. Personally, I don't right now.
Okay.
But like prison fellowship, they're looking for volunteers to be able to get people to go in. Especially when I do start getting to go back in, like we will be needing people.
Okay.
So yeah, once the website's up, there will be a volunteer section for it to be able to get in, and that should be coming shortly.
Okay, so
It's
there's the
not
piece
gonna
of
be that
physically volunteering, and I know that sometimes people with space, even logistically, right,
Right.
they can't volunteer, right?
Right.
Or maybe they're not comfortable doing so right now. But is there a way that they could get behind you in other ways? I mean,
So yeah, we do take donations to be able to, buy the books that we need to be able to pay for the gas to get around to where we got to go and to inside. We do end up doing like barbecues and stuff for the guys. That stuff costs money too.
absolutely, but it's powerful and impactful.
And then not only that, on a personal note with it, with the Charis Bible School and stuff, some of the donations and stuff goes to the tuition of that. And then the rest gets saved for the books and all that other stuff. That's for Broken Halos for the guys. Because we're part of a book club that we do in there. The book that I start out with the guys inside is it's through by James Allen, called As a Man Thinketh.
Familiar with the book? I've read it.
Yep.
Powerful.
Proverbs 23:7. He has 21 book compilation though, but we just go off of it. As a Man Thinketh. It's 38 pages long. I can keep their attention.
Absolutely.
And then what we do is I get, the group, after we read them, give them 2 weeks to read the book, 38 pages. It's more than enough time, but got to think about who.
Meet them where they're at, for sure.
And so we come back and then we give everybody's perspective of what they read.
Good.
And I show because, your outlook on the world is different than my outlook on the world. Even though we read the same words off the same page,
Absolutely.
you take different than what I take. Then after we go around the room and we do that, then we kind of debate like, well, why did you get that? Or what makes you think that? What's this?
Good.
Well, why that? So that way, that's what myself and two other guys did, is we started a book club in a cell where we'd meet up and do the exact same thing with that book. And it was so helpful for me to be able to internalize and be able to let my view down and take his view in.
Absolutely.
And understand, oh, okay, there is a different way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
So that's where we start at with the guys inside, is that first physical, the fitness.
Absolutely.
Then we go to the book club. Then we go to like fellowshipping. And then upon their release, if they're getting out, then we're set up through my mentor with his friends for being mentors.
So that's like mine. When I work with my people, it's body, mind, and spirit,
Yep.
right? And so you've just nailed every single aspect of that.
Got it.
And to me, that is balance. A balanced individual is a powerful one, right? You can weather any storm when you're balanced, right? And in an environment like that one that you were talking about that creates just maybe a physically strong human being, so you can be a better survivor, fighter,
Well, you can't hold up a house with one or two walls.
Absolutely not. And what do you do? I mean, I was in the best shape of my life physically, but, broken mentally and spiritually. And look what happened to me, right? And so, and then I knew a bunch of stuff, but I wasn't doing a bunch of stuff. And so knowing wasn't really healing for me.
Right.
Healing came with how I moved in the world. So, what you're talking about, especially fostering in an environment that doesn't really have that as a culture, right? I mean, you want to be a better criminal. That's there. You want to be a better bullshitter, pardon my language, that's there. But to be a better human being, especially when you don't feel like you are one,
Right.
To create that space for them is huge. The physical piece is just a way to burn up a lot of anxiety, and tension and do, right? Be,
Right.
But, challenge a mind, challenge a perspective, because there are multiples. Everyone has a unique one, and be able to have a healthy conversation without any type of aggression or conflict, can create some real growth within a human being, right? And then be able to bring that last piece of the puzzle in, the spiritual one, that I think is the most impactful. Right?
Yeah. And if God's only worry about us is our character, then that's a continuous growth till the day we die. Because your character can never stop growing.
I'm a work in progress. That is my deal. I hope to
Always.
never be done. Every day I just try and be the best version of me, right? The idea of competing with the world long stopped. and the world that I came from, especially, both the good one and the bad. Every day my goal is just to be a better version of me, and how I can better leave the world, right? Because there's no guarantee. Today could be the last one. Not going to be a doom and gloom guy, but I'm present in my journey, and then why not? I don't look and think, well, maybe tomorrow I'll say it or do it. I do it now. I say it now, whether it's an I love you or an I'm sorry, right? And I mean it. I mean both, I'm not in the business of saying or doing anything I don't have to, right? It's all authentic. It's all true. It's all real. And it might be, the one thing that changes somebody's life forever, right? To be seen, to be acknowledged, to be truly cared about is powerful, And so if I get to have that kind of gift and that kind of power, then I won't squander it, right?
Amen.
I love what you've got going on. I can't wait to see what's next. I hope we can bring you back in the future, especially as things are, moving and grooving. I wouldn't mind having Lions Pride, right?
Lions Pride Fitness.
Yep. I wouldn't mind talking to Lions Pride for sure. There's just a lot of things that have sparked some interest in me, not just me, but I'm sure the people that are watching. And it's like, look, if you can't figure out how to get to the resources that are there, reach out to us, me specifically, if you want. Lisa, Tiffany, CJ, anybody on the team, we're here for you. Really what this is all about is, what it looks like from the inside out, right? Like life inside and outside, right? I don't want anybody to ever have to pay the price that I did or he has, to become the people that we are now. It doesn't have to go that far. I promise you that, right? And so, if you've never been in those spaces and places, don't go. You don't have to get there to learn the lessons that we have. It's certainly here, for you now.
You're not
worth it.
missing anything.
Absolutely not. And you're worthy of it. You're absolutely worthy of it. And if you don't believe it, I will believe it until you do. Right. But the resources are there, whether it's, Bobby and Broken Halos, Lions Pride, us, Inside Out, whatever it might be, the world is right there. All you have to do, like we've touched on multiple times, and I keep driving that point because it's true, is be vulnerable enough, willing enough, to reach out and ask for it. It doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger, right? Your life will forever be different if you allow people to help you. The resources are there. You don't get to say, I don't know anymore, because I'm telling you and I'm calling you out. You do know. There's a way, and we'll show you. So just reach out to us. We're here for you, and we love you. Right? Thank you for your time, brother, man. You are amazing.
Amen.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
you for sure.
I appreciate it.
From the inside out.